Hey, thank you so much everyone for attending Pique 2021. I'm Jason Weidman from ScanSource, and I'm co-chair of the Pique committee. Of course, we would have loved to be in person this year, but we're so glad to have so many of the Upstate's young professionals gathered virtually today. Before we get started, I would like to introduce Jessica Miserendino. And Jessica is import manager at Spartanburg-based AFL and serves as our other co-chair of the Pique committee. So everyone say hi to Jessica.
Hi everyone. As co-chair of the Pique Planning Committee and board member of 10 at the Top, welcome to Pique 2021. As Jason mentioned, we can't be together in person for Pique this year, but we are very excited to still have our Pique keynote, Sallie Holder, with us to share her wisdom about how you can create a path to your greatest potential and reach a place that holds true fulfillment and success. Here's a quick video about what AFL does.
Thanks, Jessica. ScanSource is also happy to be the presenting sponsor of Pique, the Upstate's annual conference and networking event for young professionals. We would also like to thank all Pique sponsors. Without the support of these partners, Pique would not be possible. So here they are.
ScanSource is so much more than a place to do business. Here, employees find more than jobs. They find careers to be proud of. And we're as committed to our partner's success as we are to our own, knowing we can't achieve one without the other. We're not just a technology provider, we're your partner in technology, delivering solutions that drive greater opportunities, and we have the experience to take you to the next level. Our exclusive resources allow you to close more deals, build customer loyalty, and generate profit-rich income. And our people work hard, knowing that mutual success depends on the lasting relationships we cultivate. So, if you want to work with a company that serves its partner communities and every community where it has an office and has the right solutions and the best employees in the business, let's get started at ScanSource.
At Piedmont Natural Gas, being a part of the communities we serve is important to us, because to us, community begins with you. We strive to address the needs of our communities by investing time and resources to help improve the quality of life for our customers. For over 60 years, we have funded programs that support education, the environment, and community impact. Our Energy Assistance Program, Share the Warmth, helps customers pay their energy bills. We're committed to helping our neighbors by powering the vitality of our communities.
I was working 2 jobs, jobs that really weren't getting me anywhere in life, and I just knew I needed something a little bit better.
I needed to go to school, I needed to get a degree, and I needed to figure out where I was gonna go.
I've done traditional schools. I needed the faster pace.
I thought I would have more success with trying to do accelerator classes and just getting it done in 2.5 years.
But also have it through a reputable university.
And that's the reputation that comes with the school. ECPI has been my lifesaver.
The instructors could take the material, make you understand it and how it's used in the real world.
When I say over-prepared, they had you ready to go. You were ready to go.
This is where ECPI goes above and beyond.
Even from another continent, I was in direct contact with career services, working on my resume, getting leads, getting contacts, working on my interviewing skills.
I would say I had my own family, because when I left there, I got these guys still in my speed dial.
Everything has been wonderful. I'm absolutely loving life.
I have a career now. I have a career. I have a purpose.
The life-changing experience that happened from before ECPI to now is absolutely incredible. My life just completely changed 180 degrees.
Where I am right now, I don't think that I could be happier.
I feel 100% confident today. I'm holding back a smile so hard right now.
All right, thanks again to all of our sponsors. We just wanted to let everyone know to please stay to the end of the event for a chance to win one of 3 signed books from our keynote speaker, Sallie Holder. Here's the book right here. And listen carefully throughout the keynote for a specific repeated buzzword that we're gonna quiz you on at the end, the last Q&A, and 3 of you will win the book if you're the first to answer. So Sallie Holder is a passionate and engaging speaker who gives audiences real-world examples and tactical tools to reach their greatest potential and earn more than ever. She does this by showing them how to break out of rock middle. And this is a phrase that she coined, and it's also the title of her book, Hitting Rock Middle, which is an Amazon best-selling book named one of the top 20 books that will change your business in 2021 by USA Today and Yahoo Finance. So now, what we've all been waiting for, everyone, if you could, please turn on your videos and welcome Sallie Holder, author of Hitting Rock Middle, The Roadmap from Empty Success to True Fulfillment. Welcome, Sallie.
Thank you, guys.
Virtual claps.
Hello, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for the warm welcome for Sallie. Sallie, we're so glad this worked out, despite the transition to a virtual event. And just so everyone knows, we're going to break for a Q&A throughout Sallie's presentation today. So we'll have a couple breaks, and during each Q&A time, please virtually raise your hand using the Zoom reactions at the bottom of your screen, and we'll call on you to unmute yourself so that you can ask Sallie your question. So Sallie, you went to undergrad in Nashville at Vandy, right?
Yeah.
You came back home to South Carolina. You're a Greenville native. You came back home to South Carolina and went to USC for law school. Mm-hmm. And you practiced law for about 10 years. And somewhere along that path, you hit your rock middle, right? So tell us a little bit about your journey and the how you came up with this book.
Yeah. First, I'll say I am so excited to be here finally at Pique, and it's an honor to get to spend the time with you guys. I know I will do my best to make the most of it because your time is very precious, and I take that very seriously. So thank you for spending your time with me. And yes, I did hit rock middle. I practiced law. I checked every box that there was to check towards my roadmap to success. And I reached what I thought was going to give me this overwhelming feeling of excitement and contentment and joy. And instead, I found that it left me feeling really empty. And I hated the fact that I was showing the world this successful version of myself, and yet on the inside, I felt as though I was crumbling. I was sad and frustrated and couldn't believe that I had spent so many years working so hard to create a vision of success for myself that just really wasn't satisfying. And that place is what I call rock middle. It's where you are stuck somewhere between your feeling of fulfillment, of true fulfillment and success, and failure. And I'll talk more about that with you guys throughout our time together today. So if you're ready, I'm ready to dig in.
Let's do it.
All right, so if you guys will, just humor me for a minute, and all of your lovely faces, I want you to close your eyes for a second. I want you to imagine with me what your vision of success is. Imagine yourself at the end of your journey of your career. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What are you doing? What are all of the emotions that you have around that moment? Does it feel fulfilling? Are you absolutely so excited about where you are? I hope so, because that's what you deserve. Have you gotten your vision yet? Now, I want you to keep that in the back of your mind during our entire time together today. Okay, you can open your eyes. Now, while I might not know the specifics of exactly what you particularly envisioned, I know that there are a few things that are on the list that seem to be on everyone's list. It's a sense of purpose. You want to be recognized for your hard work. You want to know that you made an impact with your precious time here. And I'm here to say that those are all feelings of fulfillment. See, whether you realize it or not, much of our ultimate vision of success is very much wrapped up in this idea of fulfillment. And I'm sure that it also had a lot of those external markers of success too, right? It is fine if you had on there the dream car and the dream home, but those things will come in time. They are still out there waiting for you. But I want you to think about whether you could feel the feelings of fulfillment, those that you just had in your mind that only are attached to the end of your journey. What if you could feel those feelings of fulfillment right now? And I'm here to say that you can. You can absolutely have those exact feelings every single step of your journey on the way to the creation of your greatest dreams ever. And frankly, the faster you begin to feel those feelings of fulfillment, the faster you will actually reach those external markers of success too. Are you a little skeptical about that part? Well, you should be, because what we've really been taught along the way are things like, don't count your chickens before they hatch, or don't celebrate too soon, or it's not done until the money's in the bank. Most of my family's in real estate. That is how they tend to recognize things. All of those statements are in fact training us to have delayed feelings of fulfillment. See, they're teaching us that we can't feel the feelings of fulfillment along the way, that we only get to feel those at the very end. And what we've actually discovered through amazing research by a Harvard professor, his name is Shawn Achor. He wrote a book called The Happiness Advantage. Another one of my favorites called Big Potential. Both should be on your to-do list. And what he really realized is that feeling happy actually increases your dopamine, and that stress increases your cortisol. And so when we feel happy first, right, the dopamine first, then we are less likely to feel the stress along the way, and therefore the results that we will get to experience will come along faster. They'll be better than if we were to stress every single day over whether or not the end result is actually going to come to us. If we are so stressed about the ultimate outcome, we will never get to experience the happiness along the way. So my question to you then right now is, how many of you are feeling the feelings of happiness and true fulfillment with your career right now? How many of you are actually holding off feelings of fulfillment, like a stop sign, saying, I will allow myself to feel those when I get that, when I get the house, when I get the promotion? You know, in fact, the studies show that 90% of you answered that question by saying, no, I'm not feeling fulfillment right now. Only 10% of people answer that question with a yes. 90% of you statistically instead say, I actually feel stuck. I feel stuck somewhere between success and failure, and I want to feel fulfilled, but frankly, that just feels miles away. Probably like that private island you might have envisioned in your vision owning one day. And that place in the middle, just as I told Jason, is what I call rock middle. It is when we delay our feelings of success and fulfillment until the end of the journey. And frankly, it's where far too many optimistic, talented, budding success stories like yours stop budding. Instead, what they do is they start drifting backwards as doubt starts to really be able to take over. Because without the feelings of feeling happiness and fulfillment along the way, frankly, the journey just starts feeling overwhelming and frustrating and even discouraging. So now you're starting to see why you have to embrace happiness and fulfillment starting today. We can't delay it. So you don't have to get stuck in rock middle like I did. We're actually here to save you. And later on, whether you realize it or not, you can thank us. If you're not stuck there, at some point along the way, you'll feel that way, right? 90% of us do. But I'm here to tell you that being stuck in rock middle is nothing more than a mindset, because you're not stuck anywhere. Everything is always in motion, and so are you. So now is the time to stop thinking that you're stuck and feeling anything less than fulfilled, and create entirely new habits that allow yourself to shift into the mindset that allows you to embrace feeling fully fulfilled every day. And no, it is not a key that is held by someone else. It is a key you hold so that you can create the feelings of fulfillment for yourself right now. So you might be saying, yeah, right. That's probably what I would have been thinking had I heard this exact speech when I was practicing law. See, I was wildly skeptical. But a lot of that had to do with my own habits. So how can we eliminate the things that are stopping us from even being open to this idea? Well, the first is we've got to stop believing that creating a wildly successful and fulfilling career involves complicated steps and absolutely years of hard, if not impossible work. I mean, I could list a million phrases that teach us and continue to reinforce our beliefs that the road to success has to be one that is traveled for decades and that it has to be grinding and grueling. Things like you have to pay your dues and, right, you'll get there when it's your turn. But frankly, today there are millions of examples that prove that's not the case. that it doesn't have to be grueling anymore, that you can reach massive success and fulfillment, and all you have to do is pick up your phone to prove it to yourself. Why pick up your phone? Because in TikTok, there are people making millions of dollars. And I would argue that they probably are not working as hard and have not spent the decades. Frankly, they're not old enough to have spent the decades creating the millions of dollars. And all we have to do is find one example, right, that breaks the rule, that makes it not a fact, so that you can begin to allow that to just be a feeling that came in your life and went. Because it's not true. Hard work isn't the only ingredient to success and fulfillment. The recipe is made up of a lot more than that. Things like innovation, strategic analysis, and so many more. But it's so ingrained in us that it has to be hard, and that most of the time we can't even see the easier path, even when it's right in front of us, or even when someone else tells us it exists. You know, I'm interested, would you see it? If it were right in front of you, would you be able to see the easier path? I mean, we all think that we would, right? But would you? You know, a toothpaste manufacturer proves this fact to be just a perfect example. And what happened is that they invested $150,000 in having an expert come onto their site because they were having trouble with boxes going out that were missing toothpaste. The expert was intended to fix the production line, and so he did so with a $500,000 adjustment to the production line, and placing a person in there to stop the production line each and every time an alarm sounded and a lightweight box, right, traveled down the production line, indicating that there was no toothpaste in the box. Problem solved. A couple months later, the toothpaste manufacturer placed a new employee in that same role. Unfortunately, the alarms stopped sounding. The general manager ran over, perplexed by the situation, and said, "What is happening?" only to be further alarmed by the fact that his employee was sitting there reading a book with his feet up on the table. And he glanced over and he saw a fan propped up, facing the production line. The fan was blowing off each and every empty box that came down the production line, so there was no need for an alarm anymore because the box was so lightweight, the fan simply blew it off. Problem solved. So my question to you is, both of these routes gave the toothpaste manufacturer a solution. They just took really different paths to get to the same destination. So are you going to keep believing that reaching the destination that you envisioned for yourself at the start of our time together is like climbing Mount Everest? Or is it like walking up a flight of stairs? You get to choose, just like the toothpaste manufacturer chose. So I hope what you'll do is stop holding up your own fulfillment so that you can focus on working harder. Because that's all you're doing. Stop putting off feeling good because you think the journey has to be hard in order for you to prove that you deserve to be there. It doesn't. You have nothing to prove to others. When you let go of that idea, you can get busy creating your own fulfillment and stop feeling the need to seek it from others. Because the other problem is that we think our success and fulfillment only happens when someone else chooses to give it to us. When a client chooses to say yes, when a boss chooses to give us a promotion, or a customer chooses to buy from us. And that's not true. We don't have to wait on the key that someone else has to give in order for us to feel fulfillment. We're no longer waiting. We have the vision in our minds now of where we want to go, and the journey to getting there starts right this second if you want it to. See, we're proven to be far happier and more fulfilled even when we're challenging ourselves, when we are working towards our greatest potential rather than when we're settling for less. And happiness and fulfillment in what we do is available to every single one of us, because we all possess our own key. No one else has yours. All the power to get there is in your hands. It's all controlled by your individual beliefs. See, our beliefs directly control our thoughts directly control our actions, and it's those actions that create the outcomes we ultimately experience. So if we change our beliefs that it has to be hard, or that someone else controls our opportunities to success, the rest changes like a domino effect. You know, in 1979, a 75-year-old group of men were given the challenge to really pretend that they were living in 1959 again, right? To embrace feeling the age of 55. And when they were tested for physical strength, mental agility, and short-term memory, after just embracing the belief that they were 20 years younger, every single participant improved in every one of those categories. In other words, their mindset changed their abilities, and it can change yours too. I hope that you'll choose to believe from now on that the power is in your hands. If you want to be in the 10% minority of people who say that they are fulfilled by what they do, then it's up to you to choose to let go of the idea that work must be hard and that other people control the keys to your success. And when you choose to start embracing your own happiness, there's no doubt that you'll have an advantage over those that don't. I hope that helped some of you get excited about what's ahead on your journey. So we have time for questions.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm glad you mentioned the 10% one more time, because I was going to say, based on the 90-10, at least 90% of the folks out there should have a question, right?
True. Very
so go ahead and virtually raise your hand, and if you have a question, and we'll call on you in just a second. I know for sure I don't have TikTok yet. I'm going to get TikTok. Just kidding. But I do have a question for you, Sallie. If we feel stuck where we are, which according to the statistics, a lot of us do, what is it that you hope we will feel instead of feeling stuck?
My hope is that all of you will realize that, you know, every single time we want to reach success, that the power lies within us, right? As you've heard probably a million times, it's an inside job, right? And I always equated that to personal success, not professional. And I'm here to say that it is an inside job when it comes to professional success as well. That when we are capable and are willing to spend the time to work on our own happiness and give ourselves the space to do that, that the success that we ultimately envisioned, hopefully at the start, will come much faster. Sure. And you know, for myself included, that was never something that I was taught, that, you know, happiness actually will create the external success we desire. I was always taught the exact opposite. And so, you know, if we can do nothing else today but break that, you know, teaching and hold that has been on our mindset that that's the case, well, so be it. That makes me happy.
Absolutely. All right, it looks like we have a question from Alex.
Yeah.
Hi guys, this is Alex. You know, I believe you, I'm with you, the power is in my hands, but as someone who doesn't like making big decisions or like feeling like I have that power, that can be scary too.
Totally.
So what would your advice be to address that? Okay, I have the power, but I'm scared of change. So to address that fear part.
I am so glad you asked this, Alex. Fear is excitement without breath. And so we actually hold our breaths, right? Increase that stress cortisol and deprive ourselves of the happiness when we lean into the fear. And so first, I would say a breathing exercise, 3 big deep breaths inside your nose and outside your mouth, but don't worry, I'm gonna get much more concrete than that. That actually will help get you a little bit more in alignment than stuck in that real fearful anxiety zone. Fear stems really from 2 things, and that is the fear of not getting what you want and losing something you already have, right? And so what we'll talk about in the end as well, but I'll go ahead and say here, is that what we often need to know is we need to visualize what's on the other side of that fear. And we need to know that it is worth it, right? Because all we have to this point oftentimes visualized are the potential negative consequences. And that's why I always have clients begin with their ultimate vision. You likely could tell me all of the potential negative things that might happen to you if you followed that path of change, but I bet you haven't thought through all of the potential benefits. Like the many, many, many plethora of benefits, not only how it could change your life, but how it can actually impact the lives of the many people that you surround yourself with as well. When we get happier, we find that 63% of people within a 1-mile radius of us also get happier. See, that's why the name of my company is the BRIM. It's the Beyond Rock Middle movement. I want a movement of people that believe that fulfillment is something that they deserve and that they're going to pursue it and stop getting trapped by the particular change. This idea that change is detrimental. Think through the positive consequences, write out a little T chart if you can, and what you'll see is there are many benefits. We just haven't yet considered them. Yeah?
Great. We do have another question. I think we're going to hold that for the next round of questions so we can get moving along. Sallie, I think you're going to tell us a little bit about the next steps that we can take to get to where we want to be next. What can we do?
Yeah, so, I want to have more tactical steps for you because, I can say all day long that, fulfillment is something that you should pursue and that you do have the power. But what I find is then, as I was saying to Alex, that most of us don't spend any time working towards the creation of that fulfillment. I want you to think for a second, what was the last trip that you went on? Now, obviously with COVID, it may have just been a short drive to Asheville or Charleston, but when you were getting ready and prepared for that trip, did you map out what time you were going to leave? Did you map out what you were going to do when you got there? Did you map out maybe how long it was going to take, where you were going to eat dinner, make reservations, right? You're getting the gist of this. A lot of planning went into it, I bet. Okay, now I want you to get out the short and long-term plan that you've written out for your career. The one where you put down exactly how long it was going to take, what you were going to do along the way, how you were going to get there. Wait, you don't have that? You don't have that plan written down? I mean, isn't it mind-blowing that we give more time and attention to the creation of our travel plans for a weekend than we do for our career? And if you don't have them, that's okay. 96% of people don't have their plans written down either. In fact, we only find 4% of them really have ever shared it with someone else so that they can be held accountable. Because creating change is scary. So instead, I want you to realize that maybe it's not going after the thing that you want that is in fact so scary. Maybe it's just your lack of clarity of exactly how you're going to get there, or what that destination actually looks like. with specificity too. You know, if I had a penny for every time I worked with a client and they came in and they said, you know, I want to have success and I want my business to be amazing and I want it to serve tons of people, most of the time my first question to them is, what in the world is amazing and what can you quantify tons of people? Because for some of us, tons of people will be 20 a month, and for some others, it will be 20,000 a month. And when we lack clarity, fear grows. Think about a situation in your life, right, where you currently lack clarity. Don't you feel a sense of fear around it, right? Where you haven't put in the time to take a hard look at it. Oftentimes it's things like, our finances or, right, our diet. We know that there are changes to make and we lack clarity on how to achieve our final result. And so the fear just grows like mold. Clarity is a business tool. It's what we need to use to gain control and lessen the feelings of fear to make room for this sense of happiness. Because you can't have two countering thoughts at the same time. You cannot feel fear and clarity at the same time, right? So you have to put aside time to create clarity of your own for where you are headed, around what creates specific career happiness for you. I find that a lot of this thinking around the creation of clarity is a lot like the structure of a marathon, or so I hear. I don't actually run. But what you are doing is defining the finish line, right? Your own personal nirvana. And that's what we came up with at the beginning together. And now you know that you can add some specificity around those goals, right? How much money? How many people will you impact? What will it look like and in what year? And then what you do is you work your way backwards from that point, giving you the opportunity to celebrate successes along the way. Because when we don't know where we're headed or really what amounts to success for us, then we are waiting till the end to celebrate. And that means the journey is going to lack fulfillment. I know, surprising. Who knew? Who knew it could actually be simple and not as hard as we want to make it? See, in the past, what we did or what you've done prior to now is likely you stood at the starting gate and you decided, which way do I go? But you'd never really plan a road trip that way. So let's stop planning our careers that way. You wouldn't get in your car without defining, are you going to California or are you going to Maine? You wouldn't just start driving and say, I hope that I get where I wanted to go. And yet that is exactly how we're driving our careers. No, you would plot it out. And the reason why you do so in advance is that the destination dictates the route you take to get there. Because ultimately, if you want to build, right, a career that results in you being a CEO, right, versus, the owner of a blog, the routes you are going to take to get to those two destinations are going to be wildly different. So how could anyone other than you ever tell you this is the way you should go? This is what you should do. And yet every day we look at someone else and we want the answer from them. Tell us what's best. Which route should I take? How should I handle this? And instead, you have the answer to that. We can't leave the planning of our careers to someone else. That's just giving them the key to our success again. See how we can fall back into that old habit so easily. Instead, it's time to put that level of planning into our careers. Because I can't drop you in my journey to success. Because you and I want to go somewhere different and create something different. Fulfillment means something different to you than it does to me, and that is a great thing. So instead, you have to define where it is and work your way backwards, even if right now you say to yourself, I have no idea how to get there. Frankly, you're not supposed to know how. Why? Because if you did, it would mean that you've already done it before. It would mean it's just an item on your to-do list, and I don't think any of you visualized a place you've already been. You probably visualized something new. So instead, I want you to trust yourself. Know that you have the definition of success and fulfillment. And that when you work your way backwards to the beginning, the answers of how to get there, they will reveal themselves to you exactly when they are needed. And the rest, you just have to trust in yourself. Okay.
Awesome. So, what would you say can take us off course easiest from reaching that end goal?
One of the things that I see really takes people off course is that along the way, they have developed this roadmap, right? They have created their destination, and then someone comes along and tells them, I have an amazing idea for you. Not only, Jason, should you be in communications at ScanSource, you should also have these 4 other careers and things because that's what you're good at, right? And then what we do is we pick up those things as if we're a magnet to someone else's dreams, and we say, okay, I'll go do that too. I'll incorporate that as well. And what we don't realize is those were likely detours along the way, right? If we're running through our marathon example, you have just run 10 more miles down the race that you didn't need to run. In order to figure out that wasn't your path. I've done that before. Let me tell you, it doesn't feel good to run those extra miles. Not really running the miles, but you get the analogy. But at the end of the day, so I tell people, you want to roll yourself through a couple of particular questions like, does this make sense to me? Does it take me closer to my destination? That's a great idea. Now let me put it through the filter of my internal compass, instead of just immediately taking that route and running it.
Yeah, great, great. I think we also had a question earlier from Evan.
Yeah, hi, Jason. Hi, Sallie. Hi. I just wanted to know what led you to where you are today and what your definition of success is on your own. The way I define it is just satisfaction with your career. And you may not be where exactly you want to be yet, but knowing that you're going to get there and just figuring out the right steps to take. But just, I'd love to hear more of your story a little bit and what helped you gain clarity and overcome your fears. And I love the road trip analogy as well.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the question. My story, like I said, I checked every box to success. I came back to Greenville, began practicing law at one of the largest labor and employment law firms in the country, and I had, began to achieve some, external rewards for that hard work. And then it's in the book, so I'll be very open and honest. I received the Young Professional of the Year award from the Chamber of Commerce in Greenville. I came home that night and I had what I refer to as the moment on the bathroom floor where, and I think a lot of people know what that sort of means is, right? The moment where you're just kind of crying and you're asking yourself, what in the world is going on? How did I get here? I thought I was going to feel so fulfilled, right? I will have proven to myself and others I was worthy of success. And yet, nothing changed. And so I asked myself, why do I feel, right, this dissonance between what other people are telling me, things like, you must be so happy, and what I felt like on the inside was screaming at them saying, I am miserable, could you please help me? But I was so scared. I couldn't say that because I couldn't find anyone talking about this difference, right, between external success and internal success. And I couldn't figure out what to call it, how to describe it, and if other people were talking about it or if I was the only one. And there's nothing that makes your fear grow more than, right, you being the only one you're talking to about these things, right? So that's why I find such value in business coaching these days. I always jokingly say, me on me is never good. When I am the only person I'm running these things through, most of the time I can talk my way out of it. And I still can. I went on from there to have an opportunity to run a corporate and tax firm. And then luckily from that place, I was recruited to be the chief operating officer of another company, a real estate company from there. So I went on to be the chief operating officer of 6 different companies over the course of about 6 years and realized that the passion really was around business. And luckily at that point, I had some individuals come to me and say, would you also coach us and not be our COO, but just coach us one-on-one? And so that's how I got into doing coaching and really ended up transforming things. But I will say, Evan, the biggest thing that allowed me to make the switch was me giving myself the permission to do it. And that permission can't come from anyone except ourselves. And yes, it will be scary, and you may fall flat on your face, but I never am far away from this thought, which is, which do I fear more? Never having taken the risk or meeting the woman I could have become at the end of my life and never having become her? That I fear far more than any potential, stumble I may have along the way. And there were a lot of them.
Wow. Awesome. Thanks for the question, Evan. So Sallie, we've talked about tactical steps.
Yes.
Things we can do to get closer to our goals. But tell us a little bit more about how we reach those goals before we wrap up today.
Yeah. So I want you, now that you have this vision for where you're headed and that you have visualized the marathon that you are going to run, not for others, but for yourself, right? I want you to answer the simple question, what does your life look like now at the end of the next 10 years? Because what we visualized at the beginning, right, was this long-term vision, right? This conclusion of our career. But if we were to back it up and put it into a time frame of 10 years, what does that look like for you? Now that you hopefully have dreamed in a big way, right? As Jim Collins refers to it, you have some BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals, because you know that nothing is stopping you except for you. What do you want 10 years from now to look like? Because it's that destination that will inform you of what it is that you need to start doing today to make those goals a reality. It informs what you need to do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis to go from where you are now to where it is that you ultimately want to be. And don't worry, we're going to get into the part where I show you how to close that gap. But we have to know what the gap is. And that means that we have to be willing to take an honest, hard look at where we are right now. What's missing? What don't we have today that is in our 10-year vision? And what we're doing is called opening a knowledge gap. We are identifying what is missing between now and that ultimate vision in 10 years. And when I say what's missing, we're not just identifying, right, the financial rewards. We're not just identifying potentially the time or even the fulfillment. We're also identifying things like the skills. If 10 years from now you want to be a CEO of a major corporation, what do you logically not have today that will be necessary of you in that role? Is it strategic analysis? Is it a mentor? Is it planning? Is it technology knowledge? Management experience? What's missing? Write those out. Because what you're going to do between now and 10 years is you are going to acquire those skills, those experiences. You will have a very clear path to accomplishing that ultimate vision for yourself. Oftentimes I phrase it in this way. If you don't have necessarily a clear picture of what that 10-year mark looks like, I want you to picture this. I run into you 10 years from now in the grocery store. Why the grocery store? I have no idea, but that's always the case. I actually rarely go. So I run into you in the grocery store and I say, oh my gosh, we met 10 years ago. You have accomplished everything you wanted. All of your dreams. What are you standing there telling me you accomplished? Who is the person in front of me? Is it someone that is wearing a suit running off to the next meeting? Is it someone standing there in workout gear, ready to go to a workout class because they've already retired early? Is it someone that is holding their child's hand because they really want the freedom not to have to work anymore? You are the only one that gets to define the person standing in front of me. I let someone else for a very long time, whether you want to call it society, my parents, whoever, tell me who that person should be in front of me. Versus me deciding it for myself. And here's the thing. When you run someone else's race and you do it because you think you should, well, you only get one or the other. You tend to get your income goals or your lifestyle goals, but not both. See, what we've discovered is that to have true fulfillment, you need both. You need to be able to create and live the lifestyle you ultimately want to live and meet the income and revenue goals that you have for yourself, not just one or the other. So if you don't know what those are, spend time discovering yourself. Stop looking for the answer outside of you. It doesn't exist out there. And spend time describing that place in detail. Don't hold back. And it's very easy to then think, you know what? If I don't get there, who cares? And I typically find that that only happens when you are connected to what you will have, not why you are going to have it, not why it matters to you. Because when you know why those are your goals, when you know why that is part of your destination, then you know what you're really giving up if you were to stop pursuing it. And when you know what the consequences are to believing that you can't do it, you're not willing to believe those anymore. If you know the consequence of believing that you will never reach fulfillment or couldn't possibly reach that destination, then you know the consequence is never getting to become the person you feel like you were always meant to be. And that is not the person that you were put here on this earth to become. Not the one that doubts themselves, that falls backwards. You are meant to be the person that you feel inside. Even if there is only a little part of you that still thinks that way, that's the part that you deserve to tap into. It's like a muscle. You have to work it out. You have to pay attention to it and grow it, and only then will it be there for you, strong, so that you can face any challenge that comes your way. So I hope that you will start to embody that version of yourself starting right now, because then you'll have success and fulfillment. So.
Awesome. Awesome. I can tell you this. I hope that in 10 years, I see you at the grocery store and I'm in workout clothes in early retirement.
I like it.
I think that would be a win for any of us.
Not everyone.
Well, that's very true.
Not
that's
for
very
me.
true. That's very true.
A, I don't want to be in the workout clothes, but I mean, let's be honest. But B, right, I love what I do.
Yeah,
I love to work, and I never want to go a day without it.
Yeah.
Right? If there is a person out there that still believes they're incapable of having what they want and stuck doing something they feel like they should, I am not done.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we mentioned at the beginning that Sallie had a buzzword.
I did.
That she said many, many times. So we're going to give away 3 books.
Yes.
Right here to the first 3 who type that buzzword correctly, type that buzzword into the chat. And while you're doing that, we wanted to open it up to a final Q&A. Mm-hmm. Well, you've got Sallie here, so I know there's got to be some questions. I don't want to be the only one asking here. So go ahead and raise your hand if you've got a question.
I know I can't see the.
Oh, the chat.
I can't see the chat. Oh, they're fixing that. Okay.
Got it. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
I cannot believe that there's not one question out there. I'm sure. After this, what's going to happen is you're going to get, you're in deep thought right now, which I hope is a great thing, and reflective on where it is that you ultimately want to be. So if you do later on, oh, good, Bethany, my friend Bethany has a question. I'll just say this quickly before we ask, or Bethany asks her question. If you do later on ultimately have a question that you want me to answer, please do follow me on social media. It's at Sallie Holder, and you can always send me a DM, and I will make sure to answer your question. So do that and send me a direct message. Okay, Bethany.
Hey, I just wanted to say, what is the first tool you would say to pull out of your toolbox when you're really trying to decide, is this the right thing for me? Is this really my dream?
Oh, I love it. It is such a great question. I heard it said recently on my favorite podcast, which is mine. No, I'm just kidding. I do have a podcast, Hitting Rock Middle. I'll put a plug for that. But on how I built this, and he with Guy Raz, and Guy was interviewed recently and asked, what's the commonality you see between people who are wildly successful And, again, we all think it's going to be some really complicated, long response, right? Like they had access to capital, they, were doing all of these, important things. They had the best degree, they had this and that. No. It was that they were all curious. They remained curious. And to me, that is the number one tool I always pull out of my toolbox every single time. And it sounds something like this, which is, I am so curious to see whether or not this is the right fit for me. Because if I look, right, if I am looking with expectation of that the results will reveal themselves, if I am looking with a sense of trust and genuine curiosity, I will be able to see, in fact, what I am intended to see. It's when we actually begin looking with doubt in our mindset and fear that we close ourselves off, right? I've heard it called, right, a glass ceiling or a curtain. And instead, stay curious. I wonder what it would be like, right? Or I wonder if this is the right fit for me. All of those types of questions with the assumption it's going well. I could go on for that forever.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bethany. We got one from Virginia.
Yeah.
Virginia CB.
Hi, Sallie. Hi. Hey, Jason.
Hey, Virginia.
Sallie, I was wondering, just from a personal standpoint, what your biggest obstacle has been during COVID and just the nature of the world that we're in right now.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, the lack of clarity, right? I was in the middle of my book tour. It was March 16th, 2020. I was in Minneapolis. I had 22 dates of cities that I was intended to visit, and I had wrapped up my one-on-one coaching business just prior to kicking off the book tour because I wasn't capable of keeping up both. And so I suddenly found myself with zero business, no cities to visit, no revenue or anything. And I am the breadwinner for our family. So, I tell people that story because it goes to show that when you let doubt win, that, fear is all you're going to continue to see, right? And obstacles. Instead, when you say to yourself, right, I cannot wait to see how this is going to be used for my benefit rather than my detriment, right? Always assuming that things happen for your benefit, then I immediately got into action. Each and every time, it's not as though I didn't fall apart a million times along the way, I did. And as I was telling someone recently, I allow myself to feel those emotions, right? When the doubt overcomes me, when I feel those feelings, I actually work through them. I don't stuff them down. I don't try to ignore them. I work through them and allow myself, and so I write out in a journal oftentimes exactly how fearful and scared I am to get it out of my system. I will talk it through with a friend. I will talk it through with colleagues. That's why I've created this community called the Growth Portal for other women in business, because talking that part out and realizing we aren't alone is so critical. But every time I did, I used one of those resources to move forward instead of pretending like it didn't exist and then it swallowed me whole, or that's what in the past would have happened. And so then I slowly but surely got into creating something entirely different that was way better and more impactful than I ever would have created had COVID not happened. And I think we all have to believe that. Again, it's called finding the seed of equivalent benefit. And that's what the technical term is. Find the seed of equivalent benefit. Everything that happens to us can be negative, or there can be a seed of equivalent benefit if we look for it. And it's our job to look for it. And when we do, we will find many beneficial things that can be created out of what was previously perceived to be a detriment. You don't get the promotion, you don't get the job, Curiosity. I can't wait to see how this is going to be used for my benefit. I can't wait to see what better will come along. Why are those things so important? Because it dictates your actions. It's not just a bunch of fluff talk. It's what you do next will be directly affected by that belief, as we talked about. You will then pick up the phone to call a client. You will do something amazing. You will impress your boss instead of just sitting on your hands saying, oh, well, it didn't work out for me. Again, we'll get very excited and fired up about that.
Thanks, Virginia.
Thank you.
I've got one for you. How do you overcome feeling selfish when you do what you need for yourself?
Oh, such a great question. Yeah, that goes back to a bit of the permission slip, right? You know, as you can tell, I love analogies. You know, it's a bit like this bottle of water, Jason, right? So it's kind of finite, right? When other people come to us and say, I need this from you, I want that, then the expectation is I'll pour a little water out and give it to you then. But instead, there is another way for both of you to benefit, and that is to just continue to pour water into this jug. That way I get it and so do you, right? And the fact of the matter is when you fill your own cup versus always running around with an empty cup, right? When you fill your own cup, you have something to give, right? And that's what we're, again, defining as fulfillment, is making an impact. And we can't make the impact we were intended to make if we are always empty. You will never make the impact you want. Instead, what you will do is run around giving people who are closest to you the feelings of frustration and resentment, and that's not what I want for you. So you have to pursue your own happiness. It's not a choice, it's a requirement. So it's not selfish, right? In fact, it is far more selfish for you to push your needs aside than it is to give in to them. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
If we have any more questions, we do have time for probably one more, but I did want to announce that we have some winners of our buzzword, and they are Jordan Christian, Carrie R, and Alex Moore.
Oh, yay!
Nice job. So we will we'll get Sallie's book mailed out to you.
I'll sign it.
And yeah, you'll sign it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Any thoughts before we close, Sallie?
You know, my final thought is that, you know, hopefully you feel excited and pumped up and ready to go conquer whatever challenge has previously been in your way now. But know that these resources are always there for you, whether it is following me on social media, whether it is listening to my podcast, whether it is listening to, you know, Guy Raz's podcast, How I Built This. No matter what, know that you don't have to stay stuck, that you absolutely can go after your potential. So anytime when you begin to feel yourself slide again, because it will happen, right? Expect it, then pick yourself up, seek out one of these resources, and get back on track to your path. Because I want you to run your own race. Thanks so much, you guys.
Fantastic. Let's give Sallie a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, Sallie. And hey, to everyone out there, we really appreciate you joining us today, and we look forward to seeing everyone next year at hopefully an in-person Pique event. But this was great, very informative. We're going to keep you updated on all things Pique 2022. Thanks again for joining us, and thanks again, Sallie. Everyone have a great week.